You are listening to the EdTech Takeout from Grant Wood AEA, an educational service agency that supports school districts in eastern Iowa with a focus on equity, excellence, and efficiency in education for all children.
Welcome to episode 43 of the EdTech Takeout. The podcast serves up bite-sized technology tips for teachers. My name's Jonathan Wiley, and this is Mindy Kearney.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. Welcome back.
Yes, thank you. I've had a few days away in Florida.
I know. How was it?
It was good.
Yeah.
It was Florida, so, you know.
What were you there for?
I was there for the UDL IRN conference. It's quite a mouthful,
do you want to clean up that acronym for us?
It was a conference dedicated to universal design for learning, and it's going to fit in with some of the work we're doing around AIM and accessible materials for students. So it was good to go and get some background and some learning.
Yeah.
And I did something different that I haven't done at other conferences. I thought I'd maybe share about. And well, one was packing lightly because I flew out on Wednesday. Yeah, I know you don't do that. But, well, I flew out Wednesday and came back Friday.
Yeah,
and I was like, well, it's like, how much stuff do I need to take?
I can wear this one T-shirt for 4 days.
Well, I didn't go quite that far, but what I did do, though, is I did slim down my tech that I took with me, and I just took an iPad, and I took all my notes with an Apple Pencil, which I thought was different and interesting. I used Notability and put all my notes in there for the conference, and I quite enjoyed it, actually. Yeah, I don't write a lot of stuff down normally, and I don't write much. I type everything and put things in docs and stuff like that. So I might do that again sometime. I felt like I could process a little bit easier when I wasn't typing. I was writing, and I was, I didn't branch out and do this too much, but there was times where I actually, doodled a little bit and drew something. So,
wow, look at you
just
go.
to explain something. Instead of taking a picture of it, you can just draw a quick table or draw some, icons and things. So,
well, good for you.
There
you stepped outside the box, huh?
Trying to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
We'll see.
Okay. I might take a look at those. I'd love to see your doodles.
Maybe I could put those in the show notes.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Or maybe not.
All right. So should we get on with it?
Let's do it.
Okay. So for news and follow-up today, I would say our top, we've got two pretty big items, I would say. The first one is that the new Gmail is here.
It is?
Yeah.
What do you think of it?
Well, we had kind of become inbox users, right?
We did get converted that way.
Yeah. So they're very similar, and I like that now my Gmail has a keep and Google Calendar kind of, would you call it? It's not really an integration, but it allows you to pull in a pane view
that kind of
your
sidebar. Yeah. I like that too.
I think that's pretty cool. Although I haven't utilized it. I forget it's there. And then I saw it again this morning. I'm like, man, I need to look at my calendar, not in a new tab, but click the little button and pull it into my Gmail. Yeah,
so it's available for Gmail and for school Gmail accounts, Google accounts.
Domains,
and you just click the little settings gear icon in the top right-hand corner, and you can select to try the new Gmail.
Yeah.
And so it's got a bunch of new stuff on there. Some of it came over from Inbox, like snoozing and stuff like that. But it's here, and we'll include a link to all the new stuff.
Yeah. You should definitely give it a try anyway, because I think you can go back to Classic.
You can, yes.
For now.
Or you can go back to Inbox.
Which is actually, I don't know.
I'm still in Inbox right now, and I'm just got Gmail open in another tab sometimes to play with it and just experiment. But I think it looks a lot nicer.
It does.
Yes. It looks a bit nicer.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. It just...
Yeah. Really? Some rounded edges here and there.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, so another sad announcement today. This announcement totally made me sad because I used this so much when I was in the classroom, and that's that today's meet is going to the EdTech graveyard.
Yes, it is. Yeah, June 16th is going away.
Yeah.
So, this has been around, I think they said it's been around for like 10 years or something. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I didn't use it that long, but I used it a ton with my kids because it was so user-friendly and so simple to use, and we used it for all kinds of different things, and so I was super sad to see that it was going away. So
yeah, when I first saw it was going away, I thought, my mind immediately went to, okay, it's another one of these free services that just, they can't keep it running on free, basically.
They had added a paid component to it.
So they had that paid component. I assumed that wasn't paying off very well, but apparently it's to do with like the new data privacy laws in Europe and stuff like that, and what they're doing with COPPA and stuff like that here, because they're being a lot stricter on, collecting user data and stuff in Europe. There's this new thing called, is it GDPR?
GDPR, right? Yes.
And it is new regulations in Europe that a lot of websites and apps and things are having to adapt to. And he just said it's going to be way too much work to try and, bend it and make it shape and fit all that. So it's going to go away. Yeah.
But it was a great tool while it lasted.
Yes, and if you're looking for alternatives, guess what? Richard Byrne has 6 alternatives for you to try. Of course he does. And we can link to those in the show notes, but it wouldn't be a episode of the EdTech
Takeout if we didn't say Richard Byrne's name.
Yes,
Spit it out, man. Spit it out.
Richard Byrne's got a podcast coming.
Yeah, I know. I saw that.
I guess that could be news and follow-up, too.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's going to start middle of May, he said. So,
and Tony Vincent's coming on?
And Tony Vincent's our friend Tony Vincent is coming on Richard's podcast, so keep an eye out for that one. I think that'll be a popular one. Yeah, we'll definitely mention that when we see it come out, so you guys can follow along, listen along, I should say. Mm-hmm. All right, what's this next thing on your list here? I don't know anything about. So I read a story in Gadget, and it's about a new addition to Google Arts and Culture. Mm-hmm. Which we are fans of. Yes. And there's a company called SciArc that has gone around a lot of these monuments and historic locations around the world and scanned them with like 3D lasers and done drone aerial footage and all this kind of stuff, so that we have these historical records of some of these things on here. And I think it's kind of interesting because they talk about how in certain parts of the world now, like, there was an earthquake in 2016 that destroyed some of these ancient temples, or there's the whole ISIS thing where they're, going around destroying monuments and things. And so they've got the records of these things now that, we think about how fragile some of these things are. So they've added 25 of these historic locations from 18 different countries. And they're in Google Arts and Culture, and you can view them on a VR headset if you want, or you can just check them out on their site. So, Pages got an update? Yes. Now they have a teleprompter option within Pages. Right? Yes. And basically you have all your text inside of Pages, and you go into the menu and you choose presenter mode. Yeah. And it will turn your document into like a scrolling teleprompter, and you can adjust the speed, you can adjust the text size, you can adjust like the background colors and stuff. So I mean, there are apps that do that, and apps that do that well, but some of them are paid though. Some of them are paid. I think Parrot Teleprompter is one of my favorite ones for the iPad, but if you already have Pages and you've got your kids working and typing in kind of a document editor, then why not use it? So I'm going to go to, there's checkboxes now in Google Sheets. Yeah. Tell us more about that. I don't know if I can tell you much more about that, but there's checkboxes in Google Sheets, and people are excited. Yeah. I was doing some work with some sheet. I don't even remember what I was doing anymore, and I was like, I really wish I could put checkboxes in here. Now they're here. I think Google heard you. They must have, but then I had to look up some formula and got it figured out a different way, but checkboxes would have been nice. Insert checkboxes. Yeah. Google Sheets. I'm going to have to play with that a little bit. I'll tell you what else is new. What's that? Chromebook tablets. Oh. Did you see those were coming out? So it's kind of like, obviously, like just a Chromebook, but without the keyboard. And Acer is making these now. I think probably as some kind of experiment, but they're $329, and they come with a stylus, and they just run Chrome OS. You can manage them just like Chromebooks, and they'll run all the Chrome apps and the web and Android apps and everything like that. Trying to take on iPads, huh? I think maybe they are. Just going to have a little shot of that and see how that works. So it's worth a try. I don't know if they'll catch on or not, but we'll see. So I got an email from CoSpaces yesterday that they are sharing the release of an AR creation tool at ISTE. So CoSpaces right now is VR. Yes. And they now are going to be doing something with AR. So when we're at ISTE this summer, I'm going to have to try and
get over to their booth and see what's going on.
Yeah, I'm curious as to how that will all pan
too.
out. I'm not sure if they're going to integrate that with what they already have for their platform, or if it's a separate platform, or...
It was kind of... It didn't really come out and say. It just said, come to our booth, of course, at ISTE, and we're going to show you what it's all about. So
you're going to go to the booth?
I will go to the booth for sure, and take a look to see. And I think we've talked about this before, is that there seems to be some graying areas between VR and AR and what people are calling their tool. But they already have VR, so they must really be tackling this AR thing. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Last thing on the list is not 100% brand new, but it's definitely new.
Right.
Tell us about the updates to Scratch.
So, Scratch 3.0 is coming in August, although I do think I've seen some people have gotten a look at it and are demoing it and giving it a shot. I
think there is beta access.
Yeah, and I haven't been in to take a look at it. However, what I am the most excited about is that now you will be able to create on tablets.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the neatest thing about it, because before, obviously, you had to use some sort of computer, laptop, something, but now that students will be able to create on a tablet will be great. So they're adding some other things like different backdrops, new characters, sounds, just different ways to remix and manipulate the characters and music and sounds and things like that. But biggest thing to me is tablets.
And that's good, because I think, Scratch has been very popular as a coding tool for kids, but it's not changed all that much over the years, has it? It's been pretty much what MIT first released with it. So
yeah. Oh, I did just see this, though. Mm-hmm. Will be translated and available in many different languages.
Oh, that's good too.
Yeah, so
definitely.
There we go. News and follow-up. What was a list? All right, so up next is our main course. We have our chief administrator from Grant Wood AEA, Joe Crozier, with us today. And Joe, things are about to get real, because did you know that HR actually has hired us to do your exit interview? Things are going to get real serious real quick.
Okay. Is that what this was?
Yeah. But anyway, we kind of asked Joe to come and talk with us today, because after this year, he is moving on to different endeavors. And so we kind of wanted to just sit and talk with him a little bit. We, I guess a little side note, have really appreciated working for you, Joe, and respect you tremendously, and the work that you've done for us and for all of our students in school. So thank you for all you do for us.
Well, thank you. It's been a great experience for me for 7 years to work with such quality staff to do great things for kids in schools.
All right, well, let's kick it off here with our first question. We have a number of questions here, and some of them last night we threw out on Twitter to anybody that might be interested in contributing questions. So we have questions from listeners as well.
Yeah.
Mindy, so that'll be fun.
Yeah.
First one's from us, though, which is about just the history of our agency. At least since you've been here, there's been a really high emphasis on supporting digital learning and innovative education practices. So you've made this a priority. It's been like one of our agency goals for a long time now. What was the thinking behind that?
Well, when I first started in my education career as an administrator, I was an elementary principal and a director of technology at that time, which we wouldn't even think of doing today. That's an undoable job, but at the time it worked. But I seen the importance of the use of technology and the implementation of that. And as then I left the school district and went to the area education agency, it was clear that if we wanted to transform what was going on in schools, our staff had to really know what was going on. A staff member needed to be able to walk down the hall when a teacher asked a question and be able to answer it. Yeah. And that just lends itself to people getting comfortable with those tools. So that was one of the real reasons why back in my first year I said we're going to put an iPad in every in every staff member's hands to go out and do the work. And it was more symbolic than it was about the iPad. It was symbolic that we're going to support the use of technology in the agency to help our staff get better, but also help our schools get better in dealing with kids around technology. So I think it's been an important priority for us, and I think that our our schools and kids have came a long way because of our support of it.
Stacy still tells that story of sitting at the All Agency and hearing you say, "We're going to give an iPad to all of our direct service providers," and she's like, "This is going to be so much work for me." But definitely, I've seen a big difference in the way that we support our staff and encourage them to use technology. I think they couldn't do their jobs any other way these days. I think it's made such a big difference for them and for the kids they serve.
Yeah, right.
For sure.
So digital learning has changed throughout your career, even mine. So how have you seen systems kind of adapt to those changes?
Well, I think back of the things that we had when I was back to a technology director that don't even exist now. We don't even use them now. We have to understand that we're going to invest in things in technology that are going to become obsolete pretty fast. Mm-hmm. And that's sometimes really hard for us to get past this. Now, think about it. 7 years ago, the iPad was a great solution. Mm-hmm. Today, the iPad may not be the best solution to put in the hands of 350 staff members. Mm-hmm. I think it's still a solution for certain people, like our speech pathologists and the work that they're doing with kids every day. Mm-hmm. That's a great solution. But for others, it may not be, and we have to get past it. We can't be a one-size-fits-all. So we just have to know it's always evolving. It's always changing. Get used to it that you're going to spend some money on stuff that you're going to say, geez, we didn't really hardly use that, and now nobody's using it anymore. And I think most important is that teachers, administrators, our staff have to continue to learn. Mm-hmm. You can't think that I learned it all in that class, so now I don't need to learn the next thing. And, I always am encouraging teachers and administrators to have our staff come out and help them with new skills around apps that make them more efficient, how to use a certain app, how to practice with stuff, because everything in technology, I think, can make you more efficient, but there's so much. Mm-hmm. And you got to pick out what pieces are really going to help you as a teacher to be more efficient with kids, or to help kids produce stuff, or just in our own jobs. How are we going to use that to make us a better employee or a better servant for people?
So do you have examples of things you've seen in schools where digital learning has really made a big difference? Or
Well, yeah, I do. I think that the work that we've done over the last 5 or 6 years with blended learning, I think is absolutely changing the landscape. Mm-hmm. And you see the number of staff that are now coming. You see whole buildings that have went blended, not just in a grade level. Mm-hmm. And I think the transformation of that is we said, how do we use these tools to do a better job of instruction, not how this tool is instruction. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we've helped people understand that. But in doing that, we've transformed the classroom to a personalized classroom for kids, helping to meet their needs instead of developing a classroom that looks like we had out of the 70s. Mm. Well, our kids aren't from the 70s. Yeah. They're a different student in the classroom. So I think it definitely has transformed it. Plus the fact that no matter what you do in our society today, when kids leave school, they're going to have all kinds of technology we're going to expect them to know how to use. So even if they're not using it in their daily instruction, they need to know how to do that just to survive in the world. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a world, right. It's truly a world skill that everybody has to have. I mean, can you think of starting tomorrow, going out in our society and say, I'm not using technology anymore because I don't like it? No. We could survive.
Right, I know.
So it's really just an important life skill, if nothing else.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that blended example is a great one because, when people think about blended learning or what they think blended learning is, when we have people join that class, sometimes they think, oh, this is going to be like a tech class. But it's really not. It's just about how we can use technology to facilitate the learning, how we can make things more efficient, how we can make things more personal, how we can collect data on the students. And,
right.
And I don't know if you're having this using this word yet in the tech world, but I've just been reading it in some millennial stuff I've been on. Phygital. Have you heard of Phygital yet? No. They're talking about the physical world and the digital world and colliding. And that our Generation Z, which is our kids in school right now and graduating and actually coming into the workforce, love the Phygital world. They want to be physical, they want to be in presence with people, but they want to use their technology in all kinds of different ways. And that collide causes us some issues because sometimes we're not ready for that, the things that kids can do with their phones and all kinds of things. So I think that's going to be a real challenge for us.
That's interesting.
It is interesting. I have to look up that word. So our next question actually came from Andrea Townsley on Twitter yesterday, and actually it's a two-part question. So first of all, what are you excited about in education, and what keeps you up at night?
You know what I think what I'm most excited about for education and AEAs alike is that we're more focused on student learning than we've ever been. And I think that's a great thing. We at the AEA, we've said these are our goals and these are our priorities, and we're going to attack those with a vengeance, and we're going to put resources around those. And schools are doing the same thing. If literacy is their most important goal, they're putting their resources around that. So I think that that's the most exciting, one of the most exciting things that I've seen. And the work we're doing on literacy and math and college and career readiness and even personalized learning, changing really the classroom, the landscape of what kids, and we're not there yet. We still have a lot of change that needs to be done to make it look different to what kids really need in that situation. But, and I think about what keeps me up at night, and it is, from a service agency standpoint, is are we providing all the support and help that we can to make schools better? That's number one. But then I think about, in doing that, are we collectively meeting the needs of all kids? And I look at the amount of poverty and, that's out there. And I look at the kids that aren't proficient in reading, and truly we make the combination between that and poverty. And what are we doing to attack that? What's the funding that we're really making? I mean, we're making gains, but for our kids that are in poverty, we're not making the gains that we need to make.
Yeah.
So I worry about how what are we going to do? How are we going to get better at that? For these kids, because every year they get a year older and they get a little further behind.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast on the way into work this morning by Seth Godin, and he's talking about the infinite game and how, I think that kind of sums up a lot of the work we do at the AEA. We never win in terms of okay, it's done, we've met all our goals and everything's done.
Yeah,
it's always going to be a continuous thing that we're always looking to improve on, and it's going to be, we're playing the long game, but we're taking steps along the way to make things better.
Exactly, and I think we're going to have to have a bit of a shift. It doesn't have to be a huge shift, but a shift from all kids get equal service or support to equitable, meaning that all kids get what they need. Because, we try to provide our services. We call it equity, but it's really equal. Everybody gets equal services. Well, some people need more, some people need less. And we're going to have to get to equity rather than equal to serve these kids that are more high needs.
So Joe Prussia from Benton also sent in a question, and she said, what leadership behaviors have you seen that have had the biggest impact in student learning and teaching practices?
I think it's been around our focus on when we tried years ago, and that's continued around differentiation. And really, differentiation was really about building relationships. And so, but it was building relationships with kids and then having a real clarity around what we need to teach kids. Really understanding where kids are at and providing instruction for where they're at now, instead of saying, this is what I'm teaching today. All students either get it or don't get it. Right. But I think it's relationships, and it's about clarity about what are the big rocks? What do you really want to accomplish? But we know that teachers who provide or that have relationships with kids, with parents, with teachers, that work hard out there. And I think just look at the best teachers. They have great relationships with kids, every single one of them, and they're getting more out of it. So we just need to emulate that behavior among a lot of people if we're going to really make a difference, because that's where it starts. We talk about that all the time here, right? That relationships are so important. It's not any different than whatever you're working in. If you don't have good relationships, you're not going to make that next leap. You're not going to, for a kid that's struggling, to know that the teacher really cares about them and wants to do the best for them, that makes all the difference.
Well, let's continue that relationship theme then, because and you have this great phrase here at Grant Wood where you say everything that we do well is because of relationships, and everything we don't do well is because of relationships. And our colleague Amber Bridge was wondering, when did you first come to realize this to be true, and what was the situation around that?
I think it really dates back to when I was in college, and I worked 30, 40 hours a week at a local gas station, but the professors that I had in class were coming into the station way different. And so building a relationship around and understanding how important that was from the classroom to outside of the world, and the differences. And then just being in the service industry, you know, you're building relationships with young people, with middle-aged people, with senior citizens. And you had to relate to all of them. You had to learn how do you capture that relationship that helps do the work and helps them get something solved that they need from you. You know, so I seen that early on, and then when I became a chief administrator, it became more intentional. I think, you know, you thought about it more, because it obviously is how we do our work, and we started talking about that phrase years ago, at least 10, 12 years ago when I was in here, because it really is true. If everything that we accomplish is because of relationships, and everything we don't is because of the relationships of those involved. You know, what I have learned over the last several years is that, you know, we used to teach customer service, which is important, right?
Yeah,
it's one of our core values.
Yeah.
But what's more important than customer service is building relationships. And when you build relationships and you provide the people that work in your organization with the correct resources and the support to do the job, customer service isn't hard.
Yeah.
Sure.
People take care of customer service if they have what they need. But those relationships are really key to doing that. So, and the other thing that I've learned over the years, and with whatever you're doing, especially in the service agency business, is that relationships provide grace. When we make mistakes,
Right.
and you know what? If we build great relationships, people will take a pass on that. They'll let you off the hook.
Sure.
Because they know you're going to come back and you're going to do whatever you have to make it right.
Yeah.
And that's why they're so important.
Yeah. But we have that relationship piece in terms of, like, you know, what we do with our clients, with our school districts. But I think even within the agency, you've really helped foster a culture where, you know, people feel like they are part of something big, and
right,
we have those relationships with each other, and we
Yeah.
have relationships with our, you know, even our direct supervisors, and further up the chain, that, you know, we have been, you know, one of the top workplaces to work in Iowa, or several years in a row now. And so, you know, I think even within an organization or outside an organization, then the relationships are really important.
Yeah, because I think, you know, building that environment here, it just trickles out to where we go.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
This is one of the best places I've ever worked. I can say
it
that
is.
for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. Yeah.
You know, it would be hard
We love
to
it
top.
here.
And, you know, we tell that when Mindy may remember this, Jonathan wouldn't, because I don't think I said it when he started with us. But he said, you know, whether you work for Grant Wood for a year or work for us for 30 years, we want you to be able to, when you walk away, say it's the best place I ever worked.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think in many cases we get there.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't. We don't always get that done. But we got to strive for that every day.
Yeah.
If we're going to have a great workplace, that's what we have to do.
Well, and it's the responsibility of all of us.
Yeah,
It is.
Right? You know, yeah.
And some of the testament to that is, you know, we will have people that leave and go to other places. I mean, that happens everywhere, but some of those people will come back because they know it's such a great place to work here,
Right.
and they know that this is a good place for them to be and do the work they need to do.
So, Joe, you're kind of well known for your top 10 list of professional learning books. What book would you say has impacted your thinking the most?
You know, that's a great question, but a really tough question.
Ooh, okay.
I went back over, looked through the list last night. 16 years of top 10.
Is that right?
Yeah, 16 years of
Wow.
top 10.
That's a lot of books.
It is a lot of books. So I'm going to answer this not directly, okay, if that's okay. But I looked at some categories of books that I thought were really helpful for myself and others. You know, probably the one book that stands out, it's on the going back to 2003, the very first list was Good to Great by Jim Collins.
Okay.
And I think that was very impactful as a leader in a service agency, and how we took an organization from doing good work to do great work. And then but in that category of leadership, I had like 3 or 4 books that I thought were just really good, like The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni, and that really helped us do our work around our playbook and our goals and priorities here at the agency. And Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh. He's the CEO of Zappos.
Yes.
And he's about building culture. So I learned a ton from him about that. And then Collins takes it to the next level about Great by Choice, and how we not only take an organization where we want it to be, but we keep it there. And we make some of the right decisions. And then finally, Simon Sinek, and last year's was Start With Why. Why do we do this work? Why do we care? Why do we come here every day? It's not about the how, the goals and priorities. They're really important. But it's really, we get up every day to come serve kids. We come here to serve school districts and serve each other, to make sure people have what they need, to really make sure kids leave schools, ready to go out in society and make a difference. That's why we work here. Not because every kid's going to be proficient in literacy. That's really important, but it's not the why. So love Simon Sinek with that. And then, in the education world, I've leaned towards leadership in my books. Everyone knows that, and relationships and that sort of thing. But there's 2 books in there by Folan. Way back early in my career, was A Moral Imperative of School Leadership. It was a great book. It really impacted my thinking about what we needed to do and how we needed to move some things forward. And then lately, his latest book, Coherence, which is really the shape of, are we doing the right things now around the work that we're doing? So. In another area is around generations, and I've had a desire to make sure that the workplace is different for everybody that works here, and trying to say, because we're all different. If you're a boomer, if you're a Gen Xer, if you're a millennial, and now the Gen Zers that are coming into work, and that's thrown me for a little bit of a loop. I didn't know the Gen Zs, so I've been reading about that, and that's where the fidgetal word comes from, the Gen Zs. But there was all kinds of books like Millennial Rising and When Generations Collide, and Millennials in the Pop Culture, and Gen Z at Work. So they're all on there. Gen Z at Work is actually the one that's coming out, which is not released yet, the new list. And then I don't know why this is
sneak peek to the new list.
Yeah, we'll get to the new list. So okay. And then I don't know why I made this its own category, but the Heath brothers, all the Heath brother books, Chip and Dan Heath, with was it Made to Stick, Switch, Decisive, and Moments. And Moments is on the 2018 book list, and maybe the best book by Chip and Dan Heath. I thought it was so good, I bought it for all the cabinet members. We're going to talk about it in June at our
book
retreat.
Study. Yeah.
So
good one.
And then I think that we all have to continue to take care of ourselves personally. And there's been some impactful books that I've looked at over the time. Eat, Move, Sleep by Tom Rath.
Yes, I read that one on your recommendation, and that really stuck with me, that one, because I need to go back and read it every so often just to remind myself of how you should be taking care of yourself. For sure, a great one.
And they're great strategies, and it's not by a nutritionist. This is by somebody just living life, Yeah. And then Making Hope Happen, another one that was a great Gallup writer, and then finally Grit by Angela Duckworth, and I think, and of course the research is out there now, that grit has more to do with your success in life than your intelligence, or where you go to school, or all those things. So that's been fun for me. And sometimes, and many on this list, colleagues had said, Joe, I read this book. You might want to look at it. It might make your top. And I've had colleagues last year, Stacy Bieber, one of her books, The Gold Rules, made the list, and we joke about that because my colleagues have said, thanks for that suggestion. You're on the list this year. So yeah, it's been, so I didn't list one, but there's just lots of good books out there.
Tracy Marshall wants to know what you're reading right now, or what the last thing you read was.
Well, the last thing I read, so it's been the most impactful right now, is Gen Z at Work.
Okay.
And so I'm trying to figure out this difference between Generation Z and Millennials. and some similarities, but there are some differences that we better become aware of real quick as they enter the workforce. And they're already entering the workforce. We're just treating them like millennials, and they're not millennials.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice one.
Interesting.
And so the top 10 list for 2018 is coming soon, is that right?
Yeah, in fact, it looks like it'll come out today in our blog or and come out in our staff update, so it'll get out there. But really, this was a fun year. Some good books, and my Cub fan followers out there. There's even a book on there this year. David Ross, who was the catcher for the Cubs when they won the World Series, or a backup catcher, but he wrote the book Teammate, and that made the list because it's a great book about baseball, but it's a great book about, when I think of our work around relationships and how you help each other become better at your job, David Ross explains it really well. If you want to be a great teammate, these are some things you ought to be doing. And
there's often a sporting book somewhere, or one or two on there. We had the Michael Phelps one. We had a couple of other ones. So, yeah, good ones.
But, heading that list is Chip and Dan Heath get on there with Moments. Daniel Pink, which had several books on there. Win is his new book.
Yes, I like that one very much.
And really a quick read, but it's really impactful, is by Admiral McCraven on Make Your Bed, if you've heard that, Make Your Bed. And it's really, it was one of those, a couple of these are graduation speeches turned into books. And Make Your Bed was a graduation speech turned into a book. And actually Wait What by James Ryan. One I got from Ryan Wise, actually.
Right.
So I give Ryan credit. I said, Ryan, this one's yours. Always fun to get the top 10 list out there and help people with looking at some things that might help them in their personal and professional development.
Great. Well, we'll definitely link to those in the show notes and let people see the full list.
Yeah. Still a few on there he didn't quite. Did you notice he didn't release the whole list?
I know.
We're just sneaking
a look over the table here. We can see them.
Yeah.
But,
so more to come, and there's really great ones on there.
Yeah,
so.
Good.
Is this something you hope to continue in some format after you've left the agency? Are we going to still get a top 10 from Joe Crozier or not?
That's really is a good question, and I put it as it all depends. It all depends on how much professional work that I do outside when I leave Grant Wood. And I do plan on doing some work. So if that lends itself to my work, I may be a guest top 10 list somewhere in the future. So that's my hope.
Yeah. Keep an eye on your Twitter feed or things like that. Okay.
Exactly.
So as we look ahead, what do you think might be the biggest challenges that educators are facing today, and how might they tackle those?
Well, number one, we have to deal with the funding situation in schools.
Right.
Right now, we're better off than others. When you see what's happening in Oklahoma and West Virginia, and you look at the books that they're using and their facilities, we're not at that stage by any means. But we still do have a funding problem. We have an inequity problem, too, with funding and how we really look at kids that are in poverty and kids that are not proficient, and how we're going to deal with that. So I think funding is a big one, and then it goes beyond that, though. It's still doing real work in the schools. How do we bring personalized learning to every kid, and not just some that are really trying to do great work, but how do we do that for everybody, and how do we change that? I mean, we still have high schools that look like they were in the 70s.
Right.
And, but we see some encouraging practices, but we're not scaling them like the CAPS program that's in Waukee or the big school that's here.
Yeah.
Those are encouraging practices and what kids really want now. If you ask a kid going to a regular high school today, he'll basically say that, or she'll say that's a waste of their time. That's the way they view it, a waste of their time. But if they're going to the big school or to CAPS or Advantage or some of those that are running across the country, then they're excited. They're ready to go to work. They're ready to get their hands dirty. They're put in more time than you expect them to do. So how do we make that? How do we scale that? Big's reaching out to, well, let's say maybe even 200 kids. How many kids do we have in the high school in the corridor?
Yeah.
I know.
we're not even close.
Right.
We're not even close. So that's a tough one. And then, then how do we make that leap from the digital world to the physical world? Because kids want both. They want that person in front of the classroom for part of it, but they don't want them to talk to them for a half an hour and lecture to them. But they want that guidance from them. And then how do we create multiple pathways for kids in the future? I graduated, and maybe you did also, thinking your parents expect you to go to college and get a degree, and the degree was your pathway to success in life, right? And for many of us, it was. It really was.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily the case today. And in fact, many Gen Zers don't believe that going to college is going to help them at all in their career, because they've seen the number of people that have made it without doing that, or the kids the millennials that came out with a pile of debt, and now they're working in a job that's not even in their field that they went to college for. So we have to, and I'm not saying college is no longer should be considered, because I think it really, higher ed is really important for a lot of skills. But there are things out there that kids don't need, all about higher ed. It could be, careers that through a 2-year degree or a technical degree, or, many kids that are out coding have a 2-year degree making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. But we have to start to recognize there's other pathways out there.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about those people that were successful and didn't go to college, or they went to college for a while and they dropped out. A lot of those are those like tech entrepreneurs and people like that. Your Zuckerbergs and Steve Jobs and all those kind of people.
Like that.
They're making it big without. So those are the kind of role models that I think their kids are having today and thinking about.
Yep, I agree. And I think that we have a lot of debate on is the future in good hands or not? Are the people coming out of school going to? I think the future's in great hands. I look at the millennials and the Gen Zs coming out of school right now, and their beliefs and what they want to do to not only change the world, but do the right thing and really come to a job and do the hard work. Sure, it's different. They don't believe that they ought to work 80 hours a week anymore, or 60 hours when you're starting out. But that's okay. Heck, most of them are more efficient. They don't need to work that long anyway. They get the job done. So, I think that we have a lot to deal with. But I still think that we're moving in the right direction, and the leadership that's going to come in the future is in great hands.
Should we finish with a couple of fun questions, Mindy?
Sure. Okay, so I was thinking of this last night, and I had seen Jason's tweet, and I thought, I wonder what Joe's best analogy, as my husband is like infamous for giving me analogies all the time. Do you have a baseball analogy for education?
Well, yeah, I do, actually. You know, when you think about the great teams, and they talk about the clubhouse or the atmosphere on this team is different than others, and we're closer. Well, what they're really talking about is a great team has a great culture. Their relationships with each other, the way they treat their teammates, the way they go to work and being accountable, that's the same thing that we want to have in education, isn't it?
Yeah.
A great culture then lends itself to people bending over backwards when people need help to do something. They pick you up. They pick their teammates up. When somebody's down, when somebody needs something, when they have something in their family, whatever it is, that's the same thing. And great organizations, you see that. Great organizations don't happen because they went out and paid for the greatest players. Because if they don't mesh together, if they don't become a great clubhouse, like you don't become a great agency and workforce, you're not going to get there. So I do think that analogy does work, and they're all competitive. We're competitive in this work, but it's really still about that culture and the relationships that you form.
I think it's a great way to end it up there, Mindy.
Yeah.
Joe, thank you very much for your time. We know you are a very busy person with lots to do, but we were glad that we got the opportunity to talk to you before you moved on to the next chapter in your life. Thank you for all you've done for us at the agency, and thank you for being on the podcast today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right, on to the next part of our show, Tech Nuggets. Wiley, you're up.
Thanks.
Yeah.
First one I've got here is timeline.ly.
It's Lee.
Timeline.ly? You think? Okay, the website is timeline.ly, but yeah, when you go there, it looks like Timelinely, which is kind of a hard thing to say, really. Which I thought was interesting. I saw it from Larry Ferlazzo, who has a great blog, if you're not already following him. You basically paste a YouTube URL into Timelinely.
Okay.
And you can create interactive experiences by adding comments that appear on the side, or pictures, or links, or maps, or other videos, and basically other stuff you can link to. So it made me think about, I don't know if you do this or not, but there's this whole kind of like two-screen experience that people have. I think when they're watching TV now, they're watching TV, but they're also like on their phones as well, or something like that.
That's me.
And yeah, they're kind of multitasking. Like one screen is not enough, and I think maybe for kids today, one screen might not be enough. So hey, you can watch a video and see like things pop up on the side there that will be not random.
Pop-up video. Is it like pop-up video? You
maybe.
don't know what pop-up video is.
I don't know what that is.
Okay,
no, I'm much younger than you.
An American experience later.
Yes. So you, as a teacher, could choose relevant things to appear. So I guess maybe similar to things like Edpuzzle and things like that, where you,
Video notes or whatever.
have things like that. Yep. But in this one, you choose what you would like your students to have on the side of the video.
Nice.
And it adapts to any screen, and it is free right now.
Good.
So
I love how you add right now. You're so jaded.
yeah. I have to paddle it in today's meet and everything else. It's, I don't know where to go.
Pound your chest.
I did.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So my first tech nugget today is actually one from Barb Miltner, who works at Xavier High School here in Cedar Rapids, and.
Yep. Hi, Barb.
She shared Wheel Decide the other day. We were giving away prizes at Tech Coaches, and she's like, "Oh, you need to try Wheel Decide." And what Wheel Decide is kind of like a Wheel of Fortune board, and you click in your options, and you can do it to put your students' names in, choose groups that way, things of that nature. The other thing I thought about using it, you could use it for probability, fractions, things like that, since it's a perfect circle, obviously. You can talk about so I made a demo, a tech takeout demo, and I put your name on one side and my name on the other, so you can play if you wanted to. However, this is what's life-changing.
I've done it twice now. My name's come up both times.
So what you can do, though, is if you're in Wheel Decide, is down at the bottom, there's dynamic wheels, and you can choose restaurants around me, and it will pull from your location and put restaurants. Yes. So you can put restaurants from close to your location, and it will plop them into the wheel, and it'll help you decide where you want to go for lunch.
This is exactly what our team needs.
You should have seen Gina and I's face when she showed it. We're like, whoa, wait a minute. This is what we need.
Yes.
So some of the other dynamic wheels, events around me, which in Cedar Rapids is probably not riveting, but and box office movies and movie rentals. So if you have a hard time deciding what to do on date night, pull in this EdTech tool. Mm-hmm. You're good to go.
Or just go see The Avengers because it was very good.
Or just go see The Avengers. Okay. Yeah. You can also embed the wheel, so that's kind of fun too.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like it.
Now we're going to be able to go for lunch without having to argue or stare at each other uncomfortably.
Okay, so my next nugget is one that I happened to find kind of randomly while we're at our Building Bridges conference.
Okay.
Which we had here at Grant Wood 2 weeks ago, maybe. It was our Assistive Technology Conference.
It was. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't know how I happened to stumble across this, but I happened to do it at that conference because it made sense. And it is from Nestle.
That's what I'm like, is this Nestle or is it actually Nestle?
It is the real Nestle.
Okay.
Like the chocolate people and other food stuff that they do. And they put together an accessibility website to help you work out what the built-in features are on your device. And I always think this is a good thing that people should know. If you're one-to-one with technology or you have devices in your school, you should be familiar with, what the accessibility features that are built into your device are.
Agreed.
So it has things like, maybe you need help, I don't know, hearing sound. So you tap on hearing sound, and do you want hearing options for your phone or tablet? Do you want it for your computer? Do you want digital signers? Do you want all this kind of stuff? And it's got all this like flowchart type of deal built in where you can find out all the accessibility options in your device, whether you're using a Chromebook or an iPad or a Windows computer or whatever. So it's just a fun link to have, a good reference to have. Sure. So it's called My Computer, My Way. Okay. From Nestle. Yeah.
You just never know.
You never know.
My next tech nugget is actually a YouTube show, and I debated about whether I'd share this or not, so you'll have to tell me. Have you seen the Kids Invent Stuff YouTube show?
I have not seen this, no.
I can't remember if I've shared this or not, so if I have, I apologize. That's why I have 3 on the list today.
Is this the one you were giggling uncontrollably about this morning?
So it kind of reminds me, actually, of the Think, Make, Innovate show. Shameless plug for Think, Make, Innovate. The Amber Bridges Think, Make, Innovate YouTube show.
You mean the Amber Bridge and Mindy Carney miracle?
It's still Amber Bridges. I'm just helping. Anyway, so the 2 hosts put out ideas around a theme of some sort. So the one I was giggling at today was wearable technology. And then they have kids send in ideas of, for example, wearable technology. And so there's like drawings, and they send in videos, and then they choose a couple different ideas to actually make come to life. So it's kind of, and actually it's a 3-part series. The one I watched today was 3 parts. So it showed all of the ideas of the different kids, and then the second one was them actually creating the wearable technology, and then the third one was the one that I was laughing at today because they're actually wearing those pieces of out in public and like out with their friends, which was super fun. So just kind of a fun way, I think, to get kids creative and maybe thinking about things differently. And they also just showed as they were making like different makerspace stuff, they were soldering holes in, this sounds dangerous actually, soldering holes into a coat because they were sewing in LED lights and the coat was too fluffy. I mean, just lots of different problem solving, but they also showed that they had failed, which I thought was really great, and then ways to kind of fix their problem. So really good kind of maker mindset stuff.
So this is a YouTube channel, correct?
YouTube channel, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Could show that one to my kids at home, I think.
Yeah, they'll be soldering before you know it.
Well, speaking of fun and interactive stuff.
Last nugget is a shared nugget.
The last nugget is a shared nugget. Will we get half each on this one? Half a nugget each?
Yeah.
I saw Leslie Fisher tweet this, and I sent it to Mindy because I know she is a big emoji fan.
I am. Yep.
Tell us what it is.
So it's this new AI project from Google, and it's an emoji scavenger hunt. So they give you an emoji, and then you have to run around and try and find something that matches that emoji. So, for example, my first one was a shoe. So the shoe pops up, and then you have to run and find a shoe and then put it in your screen, and then the AI reads it as a shoe, and then it gives you another one.
So you allow access to the camera on your device, whether it's like a tablet or a phone or a Chromebook or whatever you want to run around with.
Easiest is a handheld device, though.
A mobile device is better, yes. But it is a lot of fun, isn't it? It just throws up a random emoji, and then if you pointed at something like a banana, and it will say, no, it's not a shoe. And then you have to keep looking. So it's good.
I like it. It's good for up and moving. And you
talk about those QR scavenger hunt things, and kids love emojis. So it could be, if you got 5-10 minutes at the end of the day, you want to just
brain break,
take a brain break,
have some fun, teamwork, all kinds of things you can do with that.
You could do that in teams. I like that idea. Yeah.
But it is timed, so there is a little bit of a sense of urgency about it too, which is fun.
Yes, there is. But you get extra time if you get them right. Is that right?
Yeah, you get more time, and then I think maybe the emojis get harder too.
Yes.
So.
All right, emoji scavenger hunt. Try it out. We'll put a link on that one.
Yep.
Well, speaking of fun, I'm just going to throw in a quick podcast pick, which I found, which is for kids in the classroom, and it's called Pants on Fire.
Oh.
Yes.
Nana boo boo. No, that's stick your head in doo-doo. What's your liar, liar, pants on fire?
That's the one.
Oh, boy. Okay. I'm with you.
So it's a game show based podcast where they have 2 adults on the show.
Okay.
One is an expert on a topic, and one is a liar on a topic.
That sounds like this podcast.
Yes, it does.
Yes, right.
But then they have a kid come on and ask questions to the adults.
Cool.
And the kid has to try and work out which one is the expert and which one's the liar, basically.
Yeah.
So they have different topics on there, and some of them are like science-based, and some of them are just like, natural world type stuff. So I had listened to one with my son in the car the other day, and it was on martial arts, because he loves, martial art type things. We will listen to one on primates. They have one on drones, photography, chess, and it's just fun game show style thing. They make it very lighthearted, and so if you're looking for a podcast that is educational for your own kids or for the students in your classroom, then Pants on Fire is a good one. The episodes are less than 20 minutes long, but
that would be super fun idea, like for in your classroom to do a podcast, because you could like do stuff with like characters in a book, or have.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you could actually play that game and create your own.
Mm-hmm.
That's
your
a good
own
idea.
Pants on Fire
How long
game.
are the episodes? Are they short?
Less than 20 minutes.
Ooh, perfect.
Yeah,
it's a car ride.
It is.
Nice.
So that's about all we have time for this week. I'd like to give a big thank you to Joe Crozier, who was kind enough to take time out of his busy day and talk to us. We had a great time talking to him, and we always learn a lot when we talk to him.
I am at Team Kearney on Twitter, and Jonathan is at Jonathan Wiley. Our team account is at DLGW AEA. That's for digital learning at Grant Wood AEA. Don't you always say that you'd think people are like, what does all of that mean?
That alphabet soup?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can also use our hashtag EdTechTakeout to tag the show. But if you prefer, you can send us an email to podcast@gwaea.org.
So until next time.
This has been the EdTech Takeout. We hope it hit the spot.
For more information on today's episode, please visit dlgwaea.org/podcast.